Hey, welcome to this episode of Guide Therapy. I'm Michael. I share my knowledge of musical gear solutions which are cheaper and better, in my opinion. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you wouldn't miss my future updates. Elektron Syntakt is attempting 12 tracks, 35 synths on paper. It also has built-in filters for each track, insert fax bus, and delay reverb sense. Sounds like there's a DAW cranked in this metal box, and this DAW wants to cost me $1,000? How about we replicate it for free? So today, I'm gonna show you my approach for replicating the Elektron Syntakt for free. Let's go. Let's deconstruct the Syntakt first. On paper, it has 12 tracks and 35 synths to sequence with. 35 might sound a lot, but in reality, they're just some presets came from a few synth engines, like analog and FM, which limited a certain parameter value into a specific range, so they would sound like a certain instrument no matter how you change it. And you know what? There are a lot of free synth engine softwares for PC and Mac, and there are also a lot of free software hubs, which allows those synth engines to be sequenced at the same time. And usually this software hub is called DAW, or DAW, which is short for Digital Audio Workstation. If you're on PC, you can try Cakewalk and MPC Beats, which are all free and fully-fledged DAW. I'm on Mac, and my favorite one is GarageBand, which has more limitations than other free DAWs, but it's already powerful enough to replicate the Syntakt workflow. If GarageBand can do it, then other DAWs can also do it. Just use whatever device you already have. Now let's get back to the Syntakt. So Syntakt has 12 tracks of monophonic synths, and lucky us, there's no track limitation here in GarageBand. The rooftop is your CPU power. I'm using the MacBook Air 2014, and from my experience, 12 tracks is so easy in GarageBand. And the first synth we are going to replicate is the kick. In Syntakt, each synth is limited to 8 parameters at most. In kick, you can set the tune, pitch sweep travel and time, decay, some modulation for more harmonics, and punch, which is kind of like a transient shaper, and lastly an overdrive. The instrument plugin I'm using is a free one called TAL Noisemaker. It's a really powerful digital voltage control oscillator synth, which comes with a lot of presets, just like the Syntakt. And there is one drum preset called Kick Fat. It uses the fully resonated filter as a kick, which is really smart. You can change the tune and the decay in it. And you can also use 2 LFO to modulate the sound. And for the punch and overdrive, you can just use the built-in effect enveloper and distortion in GarageBand to achieve the same goal. Don't think I'm joking with you, because I'm trying to use a software to replicate the hardware synth. Cause for the digital synth part, Syntakt is just like our computer, running digital synthesizers on this digital chip, which is way more weaker than our computer. The thing makes you worship the hardware is how Elektron presents those concepts, and we'll talk about it later. Okay, let's go to other instrument synths. For the snare part, if you don't chase for a realistic snare sound, then you can just start with snare presets in TAL Noisemaker. But here, I like to add some more texture, and I use a free snare plugin called Excite Snare Drum, which is really great for simulating a realistic snare sound. It also gives you some options to randomize your sound while playing. And there are also presets for hi-hat, cymbal, and other percussions. Now you may say, hey Michael, those are all digital synths. What about those analog ones? You can never replicate analog synths on a digital computer. Actually, no, but yes. Just use analog drum samples. No, there'll never be same between analog sound and digital samples. Okay, let me ask you a question. How do you record your music? Where do you publish your music? And how do people listen to your music? YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music. Right? Do you record and publish in cassette or vinyl? If the answer is no, then they are all in online streaming format. They are all digital. Even if you record your synth, vocal, and guitar in analog, they are all delivered in digital eventually. Just like you used some analog samples in the first place. The analog part only works as an effect added to your sound. So with this kept in mind, we can use analog samples to replicate analog devices. There's a free plugin called BPB Cassette Drums, which literally has classic analog drum machine recorded onto cassettes. And for melodic synths, we can also use TAL Noisemaker for subtractive ones. If you want more FM-ish sounds, you can also use the free DX7 plugin, Dexed or Dexed. I don't know. I got you thousands of presets to download in description. If you think those digital synths are not analog enough, you can also use a free plugin called Channel 9 from Air Windows, which colors the tone for more analog feel. By the way, all the free tools I mentioned today, I'll get their links in description. For free, you can go check them out. Now, since we got our tracks and sounds ready, let's see how to trigger them, just like using the Syntakt. You might think you'll need a MIDI controller to trigger sound in GarageBand, but actually you don't. Almost every DAW allows you to use the QWERTY keyboard to trigger a MIDI note, including GarageBand. You can just hit Command K, and you will turn your QWERTY keyboard into chromatic keyboard. And don't look down on QWERTY keyboard players, man, cause those buttons on Elektron Syntakt are also borrowed from QWERTY keyboard buttons, only they are mechanical ones. But they work in the same way, only on and off, no velocity at all. So now you can trigger sounds on your QWERTY keyboard. You can use one sound per track like Syntakt. This will also give you more room for mixing. If you prefer to finger drum a full drum set at the same time, you can just use a drum set plugin for a track, cause in GarageBand, only the currently selected track can react to the keyboard trigger. And for the auto chord function from Syntakt, I would suggest you to learn some basic music theory on chords, cause you'll need to know some chord theories to utilize those chord inversions. Plus chord strokes on Syntakt would sound really robotic. I prefer to type my notes in. And for the note retrigger and the other modulation, you can achieve with piano roll and automation drawing. They might feel different, but they all get the job done if you know what you want to do. Now let's get to the fun part, parameter lock, or should I say the low resolution version of automation. That's what I mentioned. It's all about how they present the concepts. If the automation resolution is lowered to 16th note, just give it a sexy name. Parameter locking, motion sequencing, you know the drill. But in reality, they are all just automation. It's not something groundbreakingly unique. Even GarageBand has it. And you can also record automation in GarageBand, as long as this parameter appears as a knob in the Smart Control window. For example, I want to have my snare sound to be more reverby every 4 bars. Then I can just hit record and move my fingertips on this knob and rub it, and the automation will be recorded. But remember, only knobs in Smart Control windows can be recorded in this way. If we got no luck on making a specific parameter showing on the Smart Control window, you can hit A and choose the parameter you want to automate, as long as this plugin supports automation. Then you can hold Command and use trackpad to draw your automation shape as well. Now you might ask, okay, even if we can replicate the parameter lock, what about sound lock? Does GarageBand support that? Well, let's deconstruct the function again. What's the purpose of using the sound lock function? For drastic sound variation, or limit your drum set into using only one track. We can achieve this purpose. Just simply use a drum set plugin for one track. Done. There is a free drum rumpler plugin called Beat DRMR, which has a lot of drum set presets. It all do the same job with the so-called sound lock function, cause all the sounds are already locked into a sample, right? And with those sounds and note input method, we can already finish our composing. Now let's talk about the performance. Just like a lot of hardware gears, Syntakt is based on sequence, which is the same concept with loop here in GarageBand. If you hit C on your keyboard, you can toggle loop on and off. And you can extend or shorten your looping bar length with Shift, Option, Command, comma, and period. And you can move loop area with Shift, Command, comma, and period. And if loop is on, when you hit spacebar, it will immediately play from the loop start. Hit again will stop the playing immediately. Syntakt also has track mute and solo control, and parameter control for synth effects. This is also doable in GarageBand. With the QWERTY keyboard, you can navigate your currently selected track with up and down arrow. Then hit S to solo current track. Hit M to mute. You can also solo multiple tracks at the same time. Say I want to mute everything except my bass and riser. Then I can toggle solo for both 2 tracks. Then hit Control, Option, Command, and S to turn off solo. And now these 2 tracks will be registered as the solo group. and the group solo will be toggled on and off by hitting Ctrl, Option, Command, and S. At the meantime, I can still solo any single track by hitting S. Remember, the tracks in solo group will only update when you turn off group solo with the key combination, so just utilize it smartly. And while performing, you can also change a specific parameter. Just click and leave the plugin window open and use trackpad to turn a knob. In the meantime, the play, mute, solo function are still working. And when you hit up and down arrow, you can still navigate through tracks, and the plugin window will also change to the plugin on the new current track. This trick also works with the effect plugin windows. Okay, what else? Delay and reverb effect send. Same here with GarageBand. Check. Fax block. Yeah, fax block, which is just an insert effect bus. Although we don't have insert effect bus in GarageBand, but we have both track and master effect slots. Do you know how many effect slots do we have for each track? 15. I think it's way more powerful than Syntakt, especially for the master effect. If you hit Shift, Command, and M, you will see the master track in GarageBand. And 15 insert master effect is way more useful than the analog effect block and change all parameter function on Syntakt, in my opinion. And I really enjoy using master effects in GarageBand, just like I'm using an SP404. And man, who doesn't like using those effects on SP404? Well, you can see that you can almost replicate the Elektron Syntakt with GarageBand and a few plugins for free. If you do everything in GarageBand, you don't even need the overbridge track out function on Syntakt. You can just finish your sound design, composing, arranging, mixing, and mastering all in the progress within GarageBand. And the actual result will be more polished comparing to the Syntakt, in my opinion, which has no sound mode and limited effects for each track. A lot of gear-based YouTubers only show you how gorgeous and fun using a hardware gear, but they don't show you the things behind the scene, like recording each track onto their DAW to finish mixing and mastering. Or they just record everything onto one file, then do some EQ repairing in post, and then mastering before upload. Therefore, you only see the gorgeousness, not the dark side of the moon, which leaves the room to imagine how wonderful a certain gear is. And this is how their video works. Okay, this is my take for replicating the Elektron Syntakt with GarageBand for free. Leave a comment if you have any question. You can also download the GarageBand project files on my Patreon. I'm planning to make more GarageBand tutorials in the future. Just stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow my Instagram and support me through Patreon. I'm Michael. This is Guide Therapy, sharing you all the cheap and dope solution for music production. See you in the next one. Peace.